Elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Elilizwe lilokhu kubi. Elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Yo, lilizwe. Elilizwe lilokhu kubi. Ibambe. Your Excellency, the last time I gave praises to you in this very complex, there was a lot of noise and a hullabaloo by the South African media to make accusations against me. But I will not apologize because you remain our hero.
Thank you.
Emadoda. Komnyaka wawaka namakhulu amathandathu. Anamashumi amahlanu anesibini afika amadlagusha kweli lizwe abanga. Zakhekeka inhloko zamadoda, laphalala igazi, yaphuma imiphefumulo, kwatyikilikwa amadoda, ukwenzela ukuba soma kule ndawo sikuyo. Siyabulela ke tholela kwaMugabe, ngokwenjenjalo mfoka nyamashe, ngandani madoda, thahla kandayeni, twala mfoka moswale, kandani sibe ukhwanini, ndiyabona kusonakala madoda. Into zosinqo zingalilisela, into zojolobe zingalila, angavumbuluka amathambo ento kaMgayi, ilele ntabozuko, izothi noJosi ngamadolo uthina komkhulu, xa ivumba ningaliboni, asilakho mfoka ncamashe, uba singaboni intokana neepati zomfudlana, kule dyunivesithi yokhokho noobawo bethu, hambani ngedaso, nevumba layo zifuna apha. Hambani ngedaso, nicelela uba ngapha kweentlambo zetyhube, singabantwana bomguba, singabantwana benzaka, singabathula le ndawo, singabathula bomgama, asisoze sivume madoda, mabalawubi lifa lobawo bethu, lingathathwa yi-CIA yeAmerika, lithathwe yinandi yaseBritane, asifuni ama-5 ngaphakathi apha, sifune amathola kwalihlanga kuphela, bavulani ke madoda, nibaxelela abathunyiweyo bangatinga umphaquwile ikhwala kulonina sizayilwela iAfrika ngoba singabatholo nyongande kudlelana. Thetha ke Mongameli Mugabe, you are free ngoba siyayazi oba wena uqwaye ibhatyi zonto zonkruma, wena usenzela ivumba lohelasi kahelasi, siyazi uba wena uqubayele watengatenga le nto zokhawuta, walilisela mfondini, sikujongile ubuyisa iAfrika, awuthathanga nto yamlungu, uthathe into zaseAfrika, ngokuhlala kule ndawo, bakutyayelwa ugodukwe, siyafumalana ke thina, yafuna uthetha. You tell them, I have no apologies, the land is ours.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amandla! 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 Your Excellency, Comrade Jacob Zuma, President of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Phumulo Masualle, Premier of the Eastern Cape Province of South Africa, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Makengesi Stofile, Chancellor of the University of Fort Hare, the honorable ministers here present, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Your Worship, the Mayor of Alice-Town, distinguished members of the academic community, students of the University of Fort Hare, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. It gives me great pleasure as a former student of this distinguished university to join you on this special day celebrating the centenary of the University of Fort Hare, an institution I personally regard as the cradle of African anti-colonial ideology and a seminal source of African intellectualism. Here I was academically born. And here I was transformed. And here I truly discovered my African identity and African personality. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin with, and on behalf of Zimbabwe and on my own behalf, to extend our warmest congratulations to the University of Fort Hare on reaching this important milestone. I also wish to salute the academic staff, past and present, who through their hard work and selfless dedication inscribed this institution in the annals of African history. Ladies and gentlemen, the word hare has a special meaning. It's a little animal, I'm sure. Special meaning to us Zimbabweans, and I hope also to you. In my culture, a hare is known as a very clever, intelligent and witty animal, which outwits all the other animals. This animal, though small in stature, cannot be caged easily and has incredible survival instincts and great fortitude. I wonder whether those who gave the name to this university had the tendencies and characteristics of this animal in mind. In a peculiar way, such is the mental outlook of graduates of this university. The late Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Tsu Mokele, to name just a few, like the legendary hare, we were in our own way able to outfox brutal colonialists and architects of apartheid on many occasions. There were times when the Youth League, led by Joe Matthews here, had to make decisions that offended, perhaps, the authorities. But that was because we wanted to establish our identity and also identify our enemy. It was the occasion when the Governor General of the time, I think the name was some Iceland or thereabout, was scheduled to visit Fort Hare. Joe Matthews, Dumanokwe, and others, just as we were having our supper, whispered into the ears of every one of us that he who is coming is the embodiment of apartheid. Are we expected to respect him and therefore respect apartheid? To sing for him and therefore sing in praise of apartheid? No! No, we said. Let's boycott. And as he came, truly, the whole college of students boycotted his visit, because he was carrying in his flesh, in his mind, in his whole being, the whole of apartheid. And respecting him would have meant respecting that whole body with his apartheid characteristics. So there it was. And of course, the authorities being the authorities, included even the father of Joe Matthews, one by one, they call us. We were not many at that time, between 300 and 400 students only, to say, why had we absented ourselves from the ceremony that was expected to be held in honor of this gentleman? And we said, we don't identify with him. He is not one of us politically, one of us philosophically, one of us, even as we identify ourselves as sons of the soil, those born of African soil. He is not. Well, there it was. I too was privileged to be accepted to study at this university in 1950. At that time, this institution was regarded by Africans in Southern and Eastern Africa as their Oxford or Harvard, that is, as their distinguished institution of higher learning. There were many of us from across the region and beyond who made up the student body. Here we were, young, energetic, strong-willed, and heavily involved in campus politics. We used to cross the Chumi River to hold our meetings, to go to Sandile Scope sometimes, to whisper to each other as to what had happened, and sit and analyze the international situation. Gandhi had left South Africa. He had gone to India. With Nehru, they had combined as leaders to lead the struggle through passive resistance, struggle for India's independence. If they could do that, why can we in Africa not do it? That is the nature of the discussions that went around. True, we went to our classes, we attended, we went to our laboratories, we were there, but outside, we had the young leaders of the Youth League leading us and injecting, infusing into us that Africa can only be liberated through sacrifice. Gandhi and Nehru did it through passive resistance. We could try passive resistance. If passive resistance could not succeed because the enemy has bullets, but even stones, we can use stones. But we can also, in due course, use the same bullets. And this, you see, this is what led to Umkhonto weSizwe. Well, at that time, not all of us were well schooled on the political situation across our continent. However, it was during this period that most of us became aware of the colonial yoke across our continent. It was through the education and mentoring at the University College that we started looking at the political situation in our various countries from an informed but critical perspective. The early 50s were a period of heightened political activity in this region. The apartheid regime was in its first phase of consolidating racist politics, aimed at dividing races and separating blacks and Asians from whites, as it sought the dominance of Afrikaners. This resulted in the creation of Bantustans, with African children now subjected to what was called Bantu education, Bantustan education. In my country at the same time, this was the formative period of the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland, a racist federation created by the colonial settlers without the consent of the African majority. So while Malan and his nationalist party strove to hold back African political progress in South Africa, Prime Minister Godfrey Huggins and Roy Welensky sought to do the same in Central Africa. In all these maneuvers, the soul of colonialists was the same: to entrench white supremacy over the African. The Boers and Afrikaners argued that the Africans were not sufficiently developed. Huggins and Roy Welensky put it this way: that yes, we're the same people, whites and blacks, but our policy is that of horse and rider. To make progress, to move forward, cover space, distance, horse and rider must go together. But then who was to be the horse and who was to be the rider? That was the issue. And we were to be the horse, naturally, and they to be the rider. But when the horse is angered, you know what it does. During these challenging developments, the University of Fort Hare became the cradle of nationalist movements on the continent in general, and Southern Africa in particular. The university played a critical role in shaping the political consciousness of young African nationalists, such as the late Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, and others. Duma Nokwe, who became the Secretary General, and alas, who passed on during his term office when he was out of the country in Zambia. Comrades and friends, it was during my days at this university that I fully became aware of the evils of settler colonialism. Oppression and segregation were at their peak in this country. Day after day, we heard news of police brutality, mass demonstrations, and forced removals of black South Africans from their homes. This, in a way, galvanized our commitment to fight against all forms of oppression and injustice. Resistance to apartheid took firm root during the 1950s at this university. Ladies and gentlemen, Fort Hare University has thus produced great politicians and economists who have made significant contributions to the development of their countries. I've mentioned Nelson Mandela and Dumanoke and others who fought tirelessly for the liberation of this country and sacrificed part of their lives, 27 years in jail, Robben Island. When Mandela came out and I visited here, I went to Robben Island to see the place. You don't imprison a person for no reason, merely because he's black, merely because you prevent him from becoming unequal with you. And then you send him to prison for 27 years. I only went to prison for 11 years, which is nothing to count in relation to Mandela's imprisonment. But I know what it is to be in prison. And for all that, you also know that to imprison a person for no crime is a criminal act on your part. And that is why, as we became independent, we did not say to Ian Smith, you go to prison for 11 years. No. We said to him, let us now recognize that the act of independence has bestowed the same identity, political identity, on us. If you fought your struggle on the opposite side, we now cannot avoid each other. Independence has made us equal. We shall not revenge, and we shall pursue a policy of national reconciliation. And Ian Smith and myself used to talk to each other thereafter. He was a member of parliament. But I say to him, as long as you comply and you obey, fine. And yet it is one farm, we didn't take it away from him. His father died and he inherited it, and he had 2 farms. It was only then we said, fine, we will take one away from you. And we leave you with 1. And we left him with his own, right up to his death just about 3 or 4 years ago. He died, I think he died here, and decided to be turned into ashes. So we did it. Mandela came out, and I saw him, met him, come to visit us, hand in hand with those who were, with the president who had allowed him to remain in prison. He did not revenge, but he said, freedom must be freedom for all. equality for all. And that is what must be recognized. And equality for all is not just political equality, it is also economic equality. It cannot be equality when you, as we look at each other in Parliament, daily life, say you have land and I don't have land. That you have a big business and I don't have it. And I still see myself as a laborer, as a worker, looking for jobs every day. And you, all the time, remaining a master, an employer. There is no equality. That has to go. That has to go. If it doesn't go, I know the young people who are coming up are impatient. They will make it go. Well, look at some of the people that we worked with that were produced here. They got the ideology of the revolution here. We had Herbert Chitepo, he's late. George Tassisius Silundika is late. Samuel Parenyatwa, late. And Robert Mugabe, who is still alive. We say we cannot be equals when economically we are not equal. Joe Matthews, Juma Nokwe, they were my seniors by 1 year. They finished their degrees a year before I did. And the talk here was that Fort Hare was regarded as an inferior institution. At the Wits, there was talk that Africans are not capable of doing certain degrees. They cannot do law. We had certainly Z.K. Matthews as a lawyer, but generally they said the Africans cannot do those things that are of an abstract nature. We are people who are used to look after cattle, goats, and sheep. We think in concrete terms, not in abstract terms. Now, law demands that you think in abstract terms. You must know what a crime is and what it is that makes a crime a crime. And they say, of course, in Latin, and we were being taught by Z.K. Matthews here, there must be the mens rea, the intent. There must be the action to go with the intent for the crime, for an action to be a crime. So the mens rea, the actus reus, that is action, together. And Africans cannot conceive that. So Joe Matthews had done a degree in arts, BA, I think it was English and history. Juma Nokwe in science. They say we must go to the Wits to do law and blow, I quote, blow that myth. And they went to the University of the Wits and blew that myth and became lawyers. That's how Joe Matthews became a lawyer, Juma Nokwe became a lawyer. But they were motivated by the fact that we were being demeaned and despised as inferiors, and wanted to prove that an African has the same qualities, mental qualities, as a European. So it has been a long struggle to prove that we are also equal people, and even to prove that we are also human beings. Even now, we are still there, wanting to prove, continuing to prove that we can run our own affairs in Africa. But no, you get countries like France, Francophone, Anglophone, they come with their underhand and want to affect our systems. Lots of NGOs. Every country in Africa, you will get about 1,000, 3,000 NGOs, which are supported by either France or both France, Britain, America, etc. And America has been quite open. They say they can change regimes, regime change. And in Zimbabwe, they have said, we will have regime change. I have said, never, ever. And that is one reason I have stuck on. I want to prevent regime change. It will never come. And it has never come. Now they are saying, we never said we will change regime. But there they are. Let products from here truly represent what our elders sought to make us, to make students who attend Fort Hare become in life, leaders of their people, unafraid, courageous, but educated. Educated. And that is why, in a personal way, when we became independent, I decided on two things. One, that every child has a right to education. That our education naturally must not just be primary, it must be tertiary also, right up to university. But we did not have many universities at the time. We started off with one university, the University of Zimbabwe. Then we have National University of Science and Technology in Bulawayo. We had 2, but now we have about 14 universities in the country. I said that during the time we didn't have, how shall we promote ourselves in the meantime? The universities, whether they were 2, and even when they became 3, 4, 5, 6, they chose only students who had maximum passes at the secondary school level. But others who had passed well and had good marks, no. So I said, I think it can also act as my own tribute to my alma mater, the University of Fort Hare, if I establish a scholarship that would see some Zimbabwean students also go there. So, under the Presidential Scholarship Fund, between 1995 and 2016, we have had some 3,679 students completing their university studies in South Africa generally. Most significantly, 3,010 students have graduated from the University of Fort Hare. But now that we have 14 universities, the numbers have dwindled. And of course, those who manage finance are saying it's cheaper to educate students in our own country than to educate them elsewhere. But I have an embedded here liking, sentiment for Fort Hare. And I don't like that program to die completely. And so, although we will have a reduced number, we shall definitely maintain our scholarships to Fort Hare. In tribute to Fort Hare, in tribute to what it has done, and also because there is special education here which motivates a student. It's Africanness, the history that it tells of the formation of the African Congress. And the making, therefore, of the African nation. That is the history we share. We have become part of it. When our organizations were formed in the first place, they were all formed on the basis of the African National Congress, which had been formed much earlier in this country. But allow me to take this opportunity of expressing my gratitude for the support rendered by the government of South Africa in facilitating the enrollment of Zimbabwean students at this and other institutions of higher learning. This is testimony to the special relationship that exists between our two friendly countries and their people. This indeed is a relationship that is cemented by our common history, our cooperation in the liberation struggle, our kinship ties, as well as marriages, by the way. We have not always come to South Africa and gone back empty-handed. So, whereas we have come as singles, we went back as doubles. And that also has been a great contribution to us. But as I talk about that, I must say the second aspect of my endeavor has been to accelerate gender equality, starting with the education of the girl child. We have had a tradition that only the masculine guys deserve to be educated, boys. The girls, they'll go, they'll get married, amalobolo, well, they won't contribute much. But now, it's no, let's educate them on an equal basis. And so we have promoted gender education and also gender equality in terms of the boy child and the girl child within families. Previously, for example, a woman was regarded as an inferior to the husband, subordinate to the husband, throughout life. And if the husband died, she could not even represent herself alone in court. She had to be represented by the eldest son. I mean, she had to have the eldest son as the one who will be recognized as her superior. Now, we have changed all that. And equality, now women can stand on their own. Marriage, after 8, the girl has attained the age of 18, she can decide to get married with or without permission. But African custom, you know, and it's for the better in my view, is that you always must have your parents around you, your parents guiding you, and therefore your parents must advise you. And there is hardly any girl who just decides to get married on her own without the parents' approval at the moment, although that's no longer required. So access to education must also bridge the gender bias. More education opportunities should be availed to the girl child in Africa, who for many years has been disadvantaged. It is the only way in which we can get our women to participate effectively in shaping the future of our countries. Comrades and friends, in conclusion, let me once again congratulate the University of Fort Hare on this occasion of celebrating 100 years of outstanding achievements for South Africa, for the region, and for the African continent. I'm convinced that you will no doubt continue to serve Africa in the manner that you have done so effectively over the last 100 years. So long live Fort Hare. Alala Fort Hare. Amandla. Amandla. I thank you.